Trenton Journal is for people who won't take no for an answer. Trenton Journal is for community leaders. Trenton Journal is for people who won't settle. Trenton Journal highlights some of the positive voices in the community and fills in the information gaps through original reporting.
Welcome to Capital Conversations. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Kenneth Miles, editor-in-chief and founder of the Trenton Journal. Each episode, we bring you in-depth discussions with leaders, experts, and change makers who are making their impact in the capital city. Today, I have with me 2025 gubernatorial candidate, as well as pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church, Darrell Armstrong. Thank you for joining us.
Brother Kenneth, man, I have great, mad respect for you and what you and your team do here, so it's an honor for me to be here on your show.
I appreciate it. So yes, I have a lot of questions for you, so I'm going to...
I got a few answers for you.
I bet you do, so I'm just going to jump in. Yeah. But before we do that, for people who may not be familiar with you, you want to give our audience a little background?
Absolutely. So I am not a native New Jersey, and I was born and raised in L.A., South Central L.A. to be exact. I'm very proud of the fact that what L.A. represented in the 80s, that God allowed me and a number of my friends to come through that and made us stronger black men. Went up to the Bay Area to do my undergraduate work at Stanford University and majored in public policy, and came east after a trip to South Africa in which I felt called to ministry. Thought I was going to go be a doctor, and God had other plans, and so I came to Princeton Theological Seminary in 1995, exactly 30 years ago. And so my time in New Jersey has been rich. I got a chance to serve as an interim pastor at a local church, the Union Baptist Church here, for about 6 months in 1996. And then God moved me to the Shiloh Baptist Church, which is the city's oldest Black Baptist church, and got a chance to intern under the late Reverend Dr. Samuel Howard Woodson Jr., my predecessor, the pastor emeritus at the Shiloh Church, who served that church for 53 years and really broke all kinds of integration barriers in civic service. He was the first Black on city council, the first Black assemblyman in the area, the first Black speaker of the state legislature in New Jersey, and really some say in American history. So he modeled for me faith and civic action, advocacy and activism and faith. And so I'm trying to live into that. And I've been living into that for the last 25 years as the pastor of the Shiloh Baptist Church. It is a rich, multicultural community of faith. We have roots deep here in the American South that give evidence of their expression here in the American North. But we also have tentacles that reach to West Africa, East Africa, Haiti, as now we're expanding to outreach in South Korea. We're bringing a delegation of South Koreans here at the end of October to help celebrate our 145th anniversary as a church. So I just consider myself a pastor. I love God's people, and I want to get a chance to expand my pastorate work in caring not just for Shiloh members, but really caring for the citizens of New Jersey.
So when did you decide, I'm going to run for governor of New Jersey? What was that pivotal moment?
Yeah, there were four movements. God speaks for me, and God speaks to people in different ways. I really felt that there was an issue of localized institutional racism. A local public figure was sued for racial discrimination in the workplace and settled that suit. But I heard nobody talking about it. And I said to myself, it is hypocritical for us to call out racism at the national level, but not say anything about it at the local level. And so, again, the question is always, if not you, then who? So you're complaining that nobody's speaking out about this issue. How about you speak out? So I began to speak out. That was the first move. The second move was, we woke up and a new president was elected and Jackie Robinson's name was erased. And I said, how could this be? Again, if not you, then who? Who's going to speak out? Then the next move was the Democratic primary. I was not going to enter the race. I thought the Honorable Mayor of Newark, the Honorable Ras Baraka, was a great choice to be governor, and if he elected, would be the first Black governor of the state of New Jersey in our history. What a time to mobilize grassroots progressive thinking. And so I said, I'm not going to do anything to challenge that. I want to support that. But when he lost, when he only won 2 of New Jersey's 21 counties, and the current nominees, the Congresswoman Mike Sherrill, won 16 of those 21 counties, again, I said to myself, maybe we need to be thinking a little bit more outside of the box. Not that the Honorable Congresswoman isn't a viable candidate. She is. But in this movement, and where New Jersey has 2.4 million unaffiliated voters, I said, how could it be? But then I thought about what happens in Trenton. Out of 80,000 residents, 40,000 registered, on any given election, only 10,000 vote. That's 30,000 votes left on the table. And so whose job is it to excite those 30,000 in Trenton? The people or the candidate? In 2008, they came out. 2012, they came out because they were excited about a candidate. So we are in an election cycle where only 2 statewide elections are taking place, Virginia and New Jersey. We are the canary in the mine shaft. As goes New Jersey, as goes Virginia, so too will go the midterms next year. And so that got me closer when Ras Baraka didn't win. Then around that time, I got a call from California, where I'm from, South Central, that my brother, 37 years old, was shot and murdered. And I asked myself, which of these 2 major party candidates can speak to community violence, the likes that took my brother's life? Which of these 2 major candidates have a sense of the feeling that happens not just in suburban New Jersey, but in urban New Jersey, in rural New Jersey? And so those were the progressive movements that got me to say, if not you, then who? So out of much prayer, and very late in the game, right, June 10th primary, July 1, I announced. So I've been running almost like Kamala did, a 100-day race, thinking that somebody needs to excite the 2.4 million. 9.3 million New Jerseyans, 1.5 of those are Republican, 2.5 of those are Democrat, and there's a growing middle ground. 2.5 million, the number went up from 2.4 to 2.5 million unaffiliated voters. Some say disconnected, some say disgusted, you name it, but they're not happy with either party. That's a huge voting block. And my question is, I think I can pull folk to the center and really say the extremes are not working for America. We see what's happening on the right extreme, and on the left extreme, there's no real response. And so I've made the very bold statement, our 2-party system is broken because of what's happened at the national level. And I feel that trickling down to the state level. So let's figure out how to reach the majority, the bell curve of New Jersey, and figure out how to move us forward in a decent, progressive, civilized manner.
You actually said that you sort of started late.
I did.
Late in the game. So what goes into running a campaign?
To be honest, it's all about revenue generation. It's all about fund development, because if no funds, you can't get commercials. No funds, you can't get billboards. No funds, you can't do the public outreach. But what Barack Obama taught us is that you can run a grassroots campaign on social media. And if you get a $100 donation here and $50 donations there, then those add up. And so I really feel that I'm not running a campaign. I'm trying to propel a movement, a grassroots movement of progressive thinking minded New Jerseyans who say, we don't want MAGA. Even though I may have voted for Jack Ciattarelli in the last 2 election cycles, I'm saying to many of those Republicans, but you don't want that brand of Republicanism, do you? And I'm saying to folk on the left, hey, what happened at the national level, the forensic analysis and forensic autopsy that led to the loss of the Democratic national candidate's presidential bid, I don't know if the left has really done what they needed to do to bring folk back in. And so I'm trying to raise friends and I'm trying to raise funds, but more importantly, I'm trying to raise awareness.
That says a lot. So what's the next step for you in this campaign? But I got to ask you this.
Yes, sir.
So where have you been to find out the needs of various residents in the state of New Jersey?
Great question. So I was the president of the New Jersey Coalition of Religious Leaders, and I stepped down in order to run because I didn't want to put the organization in a conflictual interest position. But prior to that, as the president of the New Jersey Coalition of Religious Leaders, that took me to all 21 counties of our state. Because guess what's in every county in New Jersey? An ecumenical body and a multi-faith body. Name me the county, I can name you the interfaith body. Here in Mercer County, we have something called UMIO, the United Mercer Interfaith Organization, UMIO. And I can name you Union County, Essex County, Cumberland County, Salem County, Passaic County, Bergen County, Monmouth, Warren, you name it. All the faith and religious leaders, that's my constituency. But that's not my only constituency. So Faith Institutions gives me a network throughout the great state of the Garden State, but also child and family serving organizations. I served as the assistant commissioner for 3 years, from 2006 to 2009, for the newly developed Department of Children and Family Services. And my job was to go around the state and promote prevention of child abuse, but also promote family strengthening programs. So while I was in government service, still serving as pastor, mind you. So preached on Sundays, but still went to State Street to work in the Department of Children and Families Monday through Friday. That gave me a chance to develop a new initiative called Family Success Centers. When we started, there were maybe 15 of them. They're now over 50. That gave me a chance to develop a new initiative called McV, Maternal Infant Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, which helps young moms and dads before they give birth to help put them in the best situation. Universal home visiting started while I was in state government. So those organizations and agencies with which I worked also gives me tentacles into the community. And lastly, I consider myself a liberationist-minded public theologian, meaning I believe that there are agencies that work with church, parachurch, and outside of church and houses of worship that ought to promote the well-being of community citizens. So that's the NAACP, that's the ACLU, that's the Southern Poverty Law Center, that's Prevent Child Abuse New Jersey. I have served in those capacities as board member or as an ally to those organizations. So those are my three main constituencies: houses of worship of all faith traditions, child and family service organizations, and civic-minded, civic action organizations that keeps my finger on the pulse of what's happening in our great state.
You're a faith-based leader in the capital city of New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the issues that are unique to our city that you want to address?
Oh, my friend, the biggest one is tax revenue. We are the state's capital. Trenton is the state's capital. Trenton is the county capital of Mercer. Obviously, Trenton has its own civil service work with the really newly renamed Douglas H. Farmer Municipal Complex and in honor of the city's first black mayor. But Trenton's only 7 square miles. The amount of state buildings, parking and buildings that comprise that 7 square miles robs Trenton of tax base. Not only does the state facilities rob Trenton of a tax base, so do the county buildings. So and that's true of every capital city, but because Trenton is so small, we have to rely on state assistance, a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. So depending on who the governor is, that pilot can go up or that pilot can go down. Under Chris Christie, the pilot went severely decreased, and we had to lay off almost by $40 million. We had to lay off nearly 100 police officers. You lay off 100 police officers in a small city like Trenton, public safety goes down. Public safety goes down, public perception goes down. Public perception goes down, investment opportunities go down. Investment opportunities go down, job creation goes down. Job creation goes down, homelessness goes up, crime goes up. So all of this is interrelated. One of Trenton's biggest challenge is not just public perception, public investment. And so we need to figure out how to get more investment that's not just government-based, but I would argue New Jersey has a responsibility to its capital city, Trenton, to ensure that it has the revenue to operate and make sure it is a safe place to live, work, play, and pray.
Now, when you made your announcement in June that you were going to run for governor,
July 1.
July 1, you had some people who were surprised, and you also have some critics who will say that, who have said that you are going to split the vote. What do you say to that?
Yeah, and that's the biggest question I get. I am committed. I like Jack Ciattarelli. I heard him speak yesterday for the first time. I think he's an honorable man, but his brand of republicanism is not what New Jersey needs right now. He is fully endorsed by President Donald Trump, and from what all I can tell, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. If Jack Ciattarelli is elected, we're going to get a Donald Trump brand of republicanism, and I am not going to let that happen. So I am running to excite the 2.4 million in the middle, but if there is no clear pathway to victory, I am on the record saying I will suspend my campaign and I will throw my support behind the Democratic nominee, the Honorable Congresswoman. So far from hurting her, I actually could help her. But I also say to both candidates, you have to earn every vote you get. To the best of my knowledge, neither of those two candidates came to Trenton, New Jersey before the primary in a public way and said, hey, Trenton, would you vote for me? You know why? Number one, they assumed Raz Baraka was going to get the vote, and he did. He won Trenton. Mikey Sherrill won Mercer County, but she lost Trenton. She won Mercer County, she lost White City, the black area of Hamilton. She won Mercer County, she lost Ewing Park. So you can win a county, but what about the constituencies in that county? So I believe they said Trenton voters don't vote, only 10,000 voters. Why should I come to Trenton? And I believe they said, the black candidate got that wrapped up. For me, that was a slap in the face. You don't want to come to the capital city, out of which you would govern the state before the election, but now you want to come after the election and say, can I have your vote? You should never take people, I don't care, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, poor, rich, don't take people for granted. I am running to tell New Jersey, don't be taken for granted. You have choice, you have a voice, and I want you to exercise that. But we also need to be clear, the larger picture, we cannot afford a brand of MAGA republicanism in the state of New Jersey. So I'm running to make both of them earn every vote, and at the right time, in the right polls dictate, should I have to suspend my campaign, I will.
Could you explain the apathy we have, not even as a country, but as a city, where there's low voter turnout? And I will say that I attended it was a forum for black leaders within the state. And as I looked around, there really weren't too many young people. What can we do to get young people excited and people in general?
Listen, both those questions go together. I'm 57, I'm Gen X, and then so I like to think I can bridge baby boomers and Gen Ys and Gen Zs. But at the end of the day, my son, who's 19, and my daughter, who's 20, they literally almost grew up with one of these devices in their hand. They grew up knowing how to navigate the technological divide. And so although I do believe that Trenton is a tech desert, it is a health desert, it is a food desert, it is a baby birthing desert, but what do we have? We have young people. And so if we don't help them understand that they are the next generation of leadership, we are doomed to failure. And so I believe that New Jersey suffers, Trenton suffers, I should say, from a generational leadership divide in which we have not raised the next generation of leaders to fall in behind us. I've been at the church for 25 years. I should be thinking about succession planning right about now. My predecessor was there 53. So voter apathy is because those young folk don't see possibility and they don't see opportunity. And so I think from the federal level all the way down, from the Congress to the state legislature, to city council, to county commissioner, to city council. We need to not only be leading with the gifts God has given us, but raising up the next generation. They need to see themselves in these positions of influence, and if not now, being groomed to step into them. The reason why 30,000 votes are left on the table in Trenton, I've been in the city now for 30 years. I am still perplexed by this number. I am perplexed, and the only thing I can say is that, again, we saw the bump go up in 2008 and 2012 when they saw a candidate who they could believe in, who they could trust. And so I don't want to blame candidates before then and since then, but there's a disconnect. And I simply believe at the end of the day, it is on the candidate to excite the voter. The voter will not come out if they don't feel that there's a candidate that they can trust, in whom they can trust, in whom they can believe, and with whom they can work.
How do you plan to connect with voters who do not subscribe to organized religion?
Oh, yeah. Listen, I believe that the world is made up of three people: atheists, adherents, and agnostics. You can name the bucket, name the place. Most folks fall into one of those three. And the adherents, you can subdivide into religious folk and to spiritual folk. New Jersey is one of the most religiously diverse states in America. We have the biggest yeshiva in Lakewood, New Jersey. So our conservative Hasidic Jews dominate Lakewood and Ocean County, at least Lakewood in Ocean County. We've got one of the biggest Hindu temples in America, right here in Robbinsville, recently opened. We have one of the biggest Protestant communities in anywhere in New Jersey. We are the crossroads of America, the turning point of the American Revolution, crossroads of America, the most religiously diverse and the most racially diverse. And so the next governor needs to ensure that we speak to the adherents, those who have faith in whatever religion, but also speak to, out of 9.3 million, there are millions of atheists or non-believers, but yet they believe in decency. They believe in justice. They believe in equality. So you don't have to be religious to believe in justice. You don't have to be religious to believe in equality. You don't have to be religious to believe in diversity. So I believe that my personal background as a young black man born and raised up in foster care in Los Angeles, happened to be raised in a predominantly black Baptist church, but went to school at Stanford University and Princeton Theological Seminary, lived in East Palo Alto, lived in Trenton. I can navigate most any socio-political, socio-cultural, socio-economic background that will be thrown at me. And I believe that New Jersey's diversity brings all that to bear. I speak every day to non-believers. That's what I do for a living. To the believers and to the non-believers. And I don't judge either one of them, because judge not lest you be judged. And so to the religious, the non-religious, and to the agnostics, I like to have the most intellectual conversations that I can have. Does a God exist? Does a God not exist? Why are we in this situation? Why do bad things happen to good people? Those are conversations that I love. They are theological, they are philosophical, they are teleological. But at the end of the day, it's all about human relations. And I believe that as a pastor, I've learned shepherding skills. And what does a shepherd know how to do? Leave the 99 sheep to go after the one.
So you mentioned formulating a succession plan.
Yeah.
Whether or not you win this election, is politics your next move?
You know, I never, because of my predecessor and the kind of prolific impact that he had, some of my members loved the late Dr. Woodson's political influence, but they missed some of the shepherding touch. And I said when I came in to the pastor in 2000, I would not run for office. And I didn't for the first 5 years. And then in 2006, Governor John Corzine knocked on my door and says, I want to appoint you into my administration. I went back to my church, asked them to reconfigure my contract, which said that I wouldn't do this. I said, would you all allow me this opportunity because of my personal background in foster care? My church said yes. I gave up $50,000 of my church salary to hire an executive assistant pastor to serve in my absence. Although I was still the senior pastor, I hired an executive pastor to ensure that things would go straight at the church. So with that said, I entered into the world of appointed politics. And then since then, I've served as an appointed commissioner on the Mercer County Improvement Authority. I've served as an appointed commissioner on the Trenton Parking Authority. I've served on appointed positions, but never elected. This is my first foray into elected politics. I don't want to be a career politician. I want to be a leader of a movement that says we could have something better. If I lose, I am still committed to all the principles that are on my website, all the policy brief statements about children and family services, all the community relations programs that I want. And I want to hold both, either whoever wins, whoever is the governor, I'm going to hold that person accountable and continue to speak for the grassroots of New Jersey. I can speak to the grass tops and I can speak to the grassroots.
And finally, why should someone vote for you?
I believe that New Jersey's citizens would get a governor who brings pastoral skills of interpersonal relationship building, because it is not just what you say, it is also how you say. It is not what you say you're going to do, is how you do it. And I have a proven track record, both in religious communities about bringing folk together. I would argue that some of the world's greatest hotspots are religious hotbeds of contestation. That what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Sudan is really, I can make an argument, a religious war. So somebody who understands religion and the historicity of these conflicts should be able to speak and bring the both sides together. I understand that. I would argue that what's happening in New Jersey is human relationship gaps. People afraid to talk to each other. NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, why can't we live together? New Jersey's 586 different municipalities that are really governed by home rule. How do we cross those boundaries? My record of bringing folk together in civic places as well as governmental places is clear. I've served on the board of Princeton Theological Seminary, one of the world's foremost leading theological institutions. I've served on the board of the College of New Jersey, one of our state's foremost leading public institutions. So I understand macroeconomics, I understand microeconomics, I understand macro relations, I understand macro relations. But more importantly, I understand the value of human relationships. And so I bring that to the table. Listen, for what it's worth, I'm a business owner of $1 million business. I just call it a church. I have to raise $1 million a year to make my budget. So I understand P&L statements. I understand what it means to have HR compliance issues. I understand what it means to hire. I understand what it means to fire. Not only do I run a church, but I also run our Community Development Corporation. And in that, I have worked with national, regional organizations to bring neighborhood revitalization tax credits to the table. I've worked with local businesses to bring earned income tax credits to the table. So I understand the interrelationships of public, private, and religious institutions. I believe that as your next governor, the governor of the state of New Jersey, I will be able to wield all those into a unique brand of grassroots movement.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.